Afternoon. Welcome. And hello to everybody. Thank you, Rose Carlson, for being with us today for our webinar. I'm Catherine Hyde-Hensley, licensed clinical mental health counselor and postpartum and birth doula. And I am also a member of the PLIDA education team. So we are asking or wanted to remind you today that the handouts for the speaker and the references were sent to you yesterday in an email. And Rose has asked that during this presentation, should you have any questions, you could drop them into the chat, and then I will share those with her throughout the presentation. And we will also be doing a question and answer towards the end. So if you run into need technical assistance throughout the webinar, please reach out to members@plida.org, and that we will be happy to help you contact us and work that out. I also wanted to remind you that this webinar is being recorded, and we again thank you for your time. Rose has worked with Share for 18 years. One of her roles is to plan and host memorial events throughout the year. She also teaches workshops to caregivers who work with grieving families and presents a pre-conference workshop on memory making at the International Perinatal Bereavement Conference. The tangible items that these parents and families receive are so important to their ability to heal and weave their baby into their family's ongoing story. Rose is passionate about ensuring that all families who experience the loss of a baby at any stage of pregnancy are able to have keepsakes of their baby, not only at the time of their loss, but as time goes on. So thank you for being with us today, and welcome, Rose. Thank you for sharing your insight.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with me today to learn more about a topic that, like Catherine just said, I'm very passionate about. A little bit more about me. I had 4 pregnancy losses many years ago, just kind of when the perinatal loss field was, I guess you could say, on the cusp of caregivers realizing how important it is for parents to not only spend time with their baby at the time of their loss, but also to be able to continue to honor that baby throughout the years. And I had nothing like any of what parents get nowadays. And so a lot of times what kind of fuels me and drives me to continue doing what I do is so that parents can have what they need and what they want to do to be able to honor their baby. So memory making is a topic that I could talk about all day long. People probably can attest to that, but I'm not going to talk to you all day long. I'll keep it short. And I love not only talking about this topic, but I also just truly love reading and learning more. And I have a special fondness for hearing what other caregivers do for the families that they serve. And I especially have a fondness for hearing from parents about the ways that they choose over time to honor their babies. I'm always just so blown away by the creativity and the things that people do. So a lot of what I share in other memory making workshops that I teach is things that I have learned from parents and from caregivers like you. So like Catherine said, I welcome questions and input, and I am looking forward to hearing from you things that you do with your families. But I also hope that in the time that we have together today that you will learn some new ideas to make the events that you host for your families special and meaningful. And if you're new to this field and you don't do events, well, hopefully I will inspire you to do so. Catherine already said a little bit, but I wear many hats in my role at Share, but one of my favorite things that I do is plan the memorial events for our families. We host several of them throughout the year, and I love them all. There is just something about witnessing parents coming to our events year after year, bringing their friends and family members, and it just truly warms my heart. And let's face it, the work that we all do can be very sad and draining and overwhelming at times. And it is just good for my soul to provide these events and see how grateful families are when they attend these things that honor their babies. it's really one of the things that to sound cliche, just kind of fills my bucket, I guess. Next. So while planning and hosting these types of events can be rewarding for you as a caregiver, there are so many advantages to having them. Typically, we hear from parents, and I'm sure you all do too, that they typically want to continue to honor and parent their baby long after his or her death. And remembrance events offer the perfect opportunity to do that. So these events provide positive meaning and connection to their child's life. They facilitate a way for families to cope and survive in their new normal. One of the other things that I really like about them is they community and a way for parents to connect with each other. Newly grieving families are able to see the healing that might be possible for them someday when they attend these events with others who are further along in their grief journey. And again, there's just something really beautiful about watching families connect with and talk to each other, especially when a newer family makes a connection with somebody who's been around for a while or been around longer. And that person kind of takes them under their wing, and it just gives them some hope for their future. In the early days and months, parents sometimes worry that they and others will move on from their loss. They don't want to forget about their baby. They don't want other people to forget about their baby, but they worry that that might happen. So these types of events can reassure them that it's okay and it's normal to want to continue to honor their baby for as long as they want to. I think we all probably know that while most bereaved parents have loved ones who are supportive of them at the time of their loss, supportive in their grief in the early days and months, that support often kind of wanes as time goes by. And many parents tell us that their loved ones are sometimes surprised when they continue doing things to honor their baby, especially after a year or so has gone by, and especially if they've had another baby. Often their families will say things like, "Oh, do you still need to do that?" Well, yes, they do still need to do that. And so their loved ones just often don't realize or understand the need that parents have to continue to honor and remember their baby. So these types of events can reassure parents that there will always be a community of love and support to embrace them in their grief, no matter how long they need the events. And it's also kind of meaningful to them, to those parents who, like me, maybe, who had an early loss, or someone else who really didn't get any mementos. And these events can become a way for them to kind of collect experiences and things to remember their baby by. Next. So there are quite a few different times throughout the year that you can host events, and we do at Share different times. We do things around Grandparents' Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, just lots of different things. But these are the ones I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about hosting events during October and around the winter holidays, because that's very timely right now. We're coming up on Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, and the winter holidays are a time that I always feel like is really important to do something for families, because that's a time when grief is often triggered and they realize what they're missing and things like that. So those are the two things I'm going to talk about today. Next. So no matter when you host an event, what time of the year, what type of event it is, there are a few key things to keep in mind if you want your event to be a success. So first of all, if this is a new event for you, before you get too far into planning, consider the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why. And it sounds simple, but it can really kind of center you and kind of give you a jumping off place to start. So first of all, you want to figure out who is your target audience. Is this event strictly for bereaved parents? Is it something that's for newly bereaved parents? Are grandparents welcome? Is it an event just for grandparents? And if it is, do you want parents to be able to come as well? Is it an event that siblings can come to, or is it an event strictly for siblings? So determining your target audience will kind of be the jumping off place for what type of event you might want to host, where you might want to have it, when you might want to have it. So that's kind of the first most important thing to consider, is who is your audience. The second thing is, what type of event are you envisioning? Do you want it to be like a candlelight, more solemn, formal event? Or do you want it to be something more fun, like a gathering in the park, a picnic, where families can just gather and visit with each other? The type of event that you choose will determine whether or not it is appropriate for children, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. So when do you want your event to be is something else to think about. And again, think about your intended audience. Most of your parents work. It might work better to have an event on a weekend. If it's an event that children will come to, again, it might be more appropriate to have it on a weekend. So that's just something to think about. And where, this might not seem like a big deal, but where is an important consideration. And again, think of your intended audience when choosing a location. A lot of times caregivers have the easiest access to like a room in a hospital, but while that might be your easiest option, keep in mind that it can be difficult for parents to walk into a hospital, even if it's not the hospital where they delivered their baby or had their loss. So look into things like community centers. Parks often have community buildings. Libraries often have rooms that you can use for free or low cost. Private chapels, things like that can all be low cost. Sometimes even banks have rooms that the community can use. If the hospital is your only option, and it might very well be for a lot of folks, it is like they really just don't have any other options than the hospital. Just be aware of what else might be going on at the same time. For instance, you wouldn't want to plan something at your hospital on the same night that there's childbirth classes. You wouldn't want, your parents to run the risk of walking into your event and encountering people, walking in with their big pregnant bellies and carrying a pillow. Or maybe you could have them enter through a different door that's not as busy as the main entrance, because that way they would cut down on the risk of maybe seeing families leaving the hospital with their new babies, things like that. Finally, why do you want to host this event? What do you hope for the parents to gain from it? Do you want it to be a one-time thing? Do you want it to be something special that parents look forward to each year? Again, just things to think about. And again, this might all seem very simplistic, but sometimes these small details are what are important to ensure the success of your event. Next. So I personally enjoy having themes for the events that I plan, but you certainly don't have to have a theme. If you do have a theme, it can make some aspects of your planning easier. It can make it easier when you're looking for a poem or decorations or an ornament or even a song, things like that. But you certainly don't have to have a theme. A lot of times people think that they're not creative. I hear that all the time. I'm not a creative person. I can't do that. But that's why we have the internet. I find lots of my ideas on Pinterest, on YouTube, on just Googling and seeing what comes up. So there's a great many ideas out there on the internet. And you can also reach out to others in your circle for ideas. Sometimes your parents might even have an idea of some kind of an event or a theme that they might like to have. One important thing to keep in mind, though, is unless you are affiliated with a religious organization, try to keep your events non-religious. If somebody is struggling with their faith, or if it's a family that doesn't really have religious beliefs, having an event with a religious theme can make them feel uncomfortable or make them feel like maybe they won't be welcome at your event if it's religious. So just try to keep that in mind. We do hold one of our events each year in a chapel, but other than that, we keep everything very non-religious. Another thing that I want to mention before I go on is it is possible to create a really nice event on a relatively low budget. My coworkers would be able to tell you that I am the queen of low budgets, and I'm the queen of coupon shopping and sale shopping at craft stores and spending weeks looking for things on the internet and Etsy, and you really can do things on a low budget if you put your mind to it. And I'll give you some ideas here in a minute. Next. So we're going to talk a little bit about October awareness as that is coming up now. And I do look forward to hearing from some of you either now or at the end on things that you might do with your families for October awareness. So I'm just going to talk about a few things that you can do that are simple. So October awareness already has its own theme kind of built in, but you can still get creative with it. You can simply go with a pink and blue color theme, which is what we have done numerous times at the share office. But in a few slides, I will also show you some other ideas as well. But doing something in October has two goals: to support the parents you serve while raising awareness about pregnancy and infant loss. Those are basically the two main reasons to do something in October. So if you have a support group or just another group of parents or families that get together, you can just have an evening and make awareness ribbons. So for that first photo on the left, when our group did those, I just hit up a sale probably months before October even, and got a bunch of rolls of ribbon at Joann Fabric. I don't think I paid more than 50 cents a roll for any of them. I bought a pack of little silver pins and a few little buttons and other things, and we just kind of threw everything in the middle of the table with some hot glue guns. And the parents made a bunch of ribbons that they all then took home and gave to their family and friends to wear during the month of October. You can also get inexpensive clear glass candle holders at places like Dollar Tree or even on Amazon, or even just Google. A lot of times I'll just Google if I want something like clear votive holders in bulk, because then you'll come up with different sites that sell things in bulk where you can get them for a good price. And then you can just get craft paints or stickers or ribbons or things like that in order for the parents to decorate their candle holders with. So just kind of make it a fun evening and serve some light refreshments and maybe play some soft music, things like that. And again, make sure to invite parents who might be farther along so that they can interact and meet the new parents who might come. Years ago, I had a nurse at one of my workshops that told me something they did in October that I thought was kind of sweet. At their hospital, they made table tents out of like cardstock, and I think they might have laminated them. You could, or you wouldn't have to. They would just last longer if you did. But anyway, they just made these little table tents that said that October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, and they got permission to put them on all the tables in their hospital cafeteria. For those of you who don't know, October 15th is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day. And that's a very good time to host some kind of a small event. For those of you who aren't familiar, at 7 o'clock in all time zones around the whole world, it's tradition to light a candle and let it burn for an hour, creating a wave of light that goes around the world. So there have been times where we have had invited families to come to the share office, and we just have a small event. We read a poem, play a song, invite parents at 7 p.m. to light their candles, and we read their babies' names. And sometimes we've even taken our candles and gone for a walk around the neighborhood where the office is at. So that's something else that you can do if the weather and the location permits that. We haven't done this, but I've always thought it would be kind of sweet to, instead of candles, provide light up balloons to go walk around with, and then they could take them home and put them on their front porch or whatever they wanted to do with them. Next. So now I'm going to show you a few photos of some of our holiday events, just so you can kind of see some of the things that you can do and how you can kind of carry out a theme. So we have a ceremony every December, just about 3 weeks before, 2 or 3 weeks before Christmas, depending on how it falls. And we call it the Light of Hope. And we have been hosting this event for 25 to 30 years, well before my time at Share. And it's become one of our family's favorite events. We typically have anywhere from 30 to 40 some families that come, and we always have new families, but we also have families who have attended for many years. And that says something to me. Like if you have families that are coming to an event for 18 years in a row, that says to me that they still miss their baby, and they still long for ways to honor their baby during the holiday season, and it means so much to them. So these first slides are from our event last year, these first 2 slides, and we kind of had a winter wonderland theme. So you can kind of see how we carried it out with the welcome sign and the program and the candles and the decorations. And again, just to let you know how inexpensively you can do things if you want, I typically spend less than $500 for this event, and that includes the ornaments that the families take home. So there's been years I've spent even $200 or $300. A lot of it depends on how much I need to spend on the ornament, because we always, we kind of want that to be something nice that the families can take home and keep. So I usually start thinking about and planning this event in June or July at the latest, because that's when holiday things are coming out and I can start getting ornament ideas and things like that. And, I can watch sales and I can start reaching out to people that I might need to borrow things from. So, and honestly, I've kind of gotten to where sometimes this Light of Hope is always in my head, and I might see something in February that think, oh, that'll be really awesome for the Light of Hope. And I save it on my Pinterest board. So I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to hold this up. This is the ornament from last year. And I will admit, I did make this, and it was a little more, I bit off a little more than I could probably chew. But again, I just bought some inexpensive beads at a craft store and some ribbon. And I looked up many directions on YouTube to make beaded dragonflies, because I had seen one that I really liked on Etsy, and it was way too much money for me to buy 75 of them, which is what I usually purchase. So I figured out a way to make them myself. So again, just, use even if you don't think you're creative, you probably are if you really think about some things. So next. These are just some more of our photos from last year. So you can see how I carried through the winter woodland theme with the programs and the candles. Next. This was actually one of my favorite ones that we've done, and the theme that year was sea glass. And again, you can just kind of see how we carried the theme out through the ornament, the decorations, the candles, the program. I just bought some inexpensive in bulk plastic Christmas bulb ornaments that this top screwed off on, and I filled it with a little bit of sand, and I don't know if you can see it, a little bit of sand, a little piece of sea glass, tiny little shells, and I tied on some twine and a little starfish charm, put it in a cute little bag. It's got like seaweed printed on it just to kind of go with the theme. And then we put in little strips of paper so they could go home and write a message to their baby and roll it up and stick it down in the ornament, kind of like a message in a bottle kind of thing. We always try to give people a candle to light at our holiday event. So this particular year, I don't know if you can see this. If I tip it up, I'm going to spill sand all over my computer, but it's a big shell that I actually bought in bulk on Amazon with some aqua colored sand. And you can see it's big. It like fits in the palm of your hand with a candle for them to take home. So again, just different ways to carry out the theme. And we read a reflection on sea glass and related what broken pieces of glass go through as they tumble around in the sea. And we kind of related that to grief and what grief is like over time. Next. So this year our theme was Love You to the Moon and Back. And again, you can see how we carried that out with our welcome sign and our ornaments and program, a little quote card, even our cake that we served after the event was over. We even had that year, we kind of got lucky. We had the perfect song for it, and our singer sang the song From Here to the Moon and Back by Dolly Parton. I don't know if you know that song, but if you don't, you might want to look it up because it's lovely and it goes perfect for an event like this. Next. Next, yeah. Again, this was a year our theme was Love Anchors the Soul. And this is a good example of a ornament that I actually purchased on Etsy. But then we bought some red velvet ribbon and a little anchor charm and kind of put them all together. So again, sometimes I buy ornaments, but then I kind of embellished them. Next. So no matter when you are hosting an event, who you're hosting it for, unless maybe children, it's always a good idea to have something with candlelight. Candlelight kind of symbolizes illuminating the darkness and dark times, and the warmth of a candle conveys love and support. So finding ways to incorporate light into your events will add a really meaningful touch for parents. You can purchase white or brown lunch bags and let families decorate them, and then put battery operated tea lights in them and use them as luminaries. You can find white luminary bags online that have cutouts of snowflakes or flowers or all kinds of little symbols that you can also use for luminaries. Just in the pictures that I have here, the jar on the left, that went with our moon and stars theme. And so there was just some white, I think I put salt or something in the bottom of the jar with the candle. And then we just tied a ribbon with little gold stars around it to kind of go with our theme. The one on the top right, that was from a October 15th wave of light thing that we had at our office. And we just took mason jars and filled them with pink and blue shreds of paper and the candle. And then we kind of lined the sidewalks and the stairs around the share office with the luminaries that evening. It was really pretty. And then again, you can see that candle that I just held up in the shell. So again, you can just kind of see how you can even use candlelight to fit with your event's theme. Next. So another important aspect of your event is providing something for parents to write their baby's name on and to read their baby's name. Most parents love hearing their baby's name, and it's not something they maybe often hear in their daily life. So that is something that they really appreciate. So we've done different things. So the photo on the left was from a Wave of Light event at our office, and we just had a little potted plant that we put lights in. We provided tags that they could write their baby's name on and hang it on the tree. So we would read the baby's name, and then as we read the name, they would come up and hang their tag on the tree. One year at our Wave of Light event, we provided these river stones that we glued fabric hearts to, and then provided them with metallic Sharpie markers that they could write their baby's name on the back of the stone and then take it home. And they're pretty big stones. I know rock painting is really a popular thing right now. And so a lot of nurseries and landscaping companies sell the big flat river stones in bulk, and you can get them pretty inexpensively. So again, that's not something that you have to spend a lot of money on. Then it's just something nice and tangible that the parents can take home. The same year that we provided the stones, we made a wreath that had sunflowers and fall leaves and things like that on it. And we provided ribbons that the parents wrote their baby's name on the ribbon and tied it onto the wreath. And then we left it hanging on the wall of our office for the rest of the month of October. And the last picture down there on the bottom, we cut out cloud-shaped tags, poked a hole with a star punch in them and tied ribbons on it. At our Christmas event the year that we had the Love You to the Moon and Back theme, those were the tags that the parents wrote their baby's name on to hang on the Christmas tree. So again, just anything that you can do that incorporates babies' names, especially reading them or allowing them to say their baby's name as they write it down on something, is very meaningful to them. Next. So there's so many different ideas for things that you can do to kind of personalize your event. I'm just giving you a few little snippets of ideas, and I've heard so many things over the years that people do, and sometimes I just want to do everything, and my coworkers have to rein me in. Like last year at the Light of Hope, literally 2 days before it, I had this other idea that I wanted to incorporate. Everybody's like, come on, Rose, save that for next year. But I just always find so many neat ideas that I want to do. But these are just some other ideas for you to take with you. So we always like to provide something that they can take home with them. And I've talked about that a little bit already. So things like packets of flower seeds, forget-me-not seeds are popular, or sunflowers or anything, or again, an ornament or a stone or charm, quote card, journals. The picture down there on the bottom left is a quote card that we give out at one of our events, and it just has a little heart charm that says "Love you" that says "I carry you in my heart" on it, and then the card is printed with part of the poem by E. E. Cummings called "I Carry You in My Heart." So again, it's just a nice little keepsake. They can keep it as is. The charm is stainless steel. They can take it off and put it on a necklace or a keychain or whatever they want to do with it. But again, just something that's simple and little that they can take home is very much appreciated. So this next thing I'm going to talk about is keeping your event hopeful. I mean, of course, it's sad to have an event that is meant to remember babies who have died, but you still want the overall feel to be one of hope, encouragement, healing, things like that. I mean, of course, people are going to cry, and no matter how hopeful you keep it, that's going to happen. But you don't want the overall theme, you want the songs to be more uplifting, like not uplifting, that's the wrong word. Just you want to try to keep things as hopeful as possible, because the people who are coming, like, they want to have hope that they're going to feel better someday, or that this event is going to make them feel better as much as they can. And those who are grieving often find a lot of solace in poetry and music. And so kind of keep that in mind whenever you're choosing poetry and music to have at your event. We always try to have refreshments. It may sound like a silly thing and it might seem unimportant, but most families that come to our events, they enjoy gathering after the event is over so they can either talk to friends they haven't seen for a while, or a lot of times we see people who are new talking to people who've been around for a while. I've already mentioned that. You don't have to be elaborate with your refreshments. We definitely want to keep it simple. We're a fan of Costco cakes. If you have Costco around and you've never had a cake, I recommend you get one. We sometimes have events and that's the first thing that says, like, oh, we get to have a Costco cake. So again, my point is it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It can just be as simple as cake and coffee and bottles of water, which is what we typically do. One last thing, it's always kind of a good idea to have other people there to assist you. You don't want to do something by yourself. For one thing, it's nice to have the camaraderie of somebody to help you, but you also might find that somebody who comes to your holiday event or whatever event that you do might need some, I guess, one-on-one attention or support when the event is over. I remember one year we knew ahead of time that there was going to be 3 new families at our holiday event. And so, like, when I say new, I mean like that had losses within the previous 2 weeks. So we knew that there was probably a pretty good chance that some of those families were going to need to talk to us one-on-one. So we just made sure that there was enough of us there so that could happen. So just make sure that you have somebody there to help you out in case that happens and somebody needs some one-on-one attention. Next. So I hope I have given you some things to think about. Hope I've given you some new ideas. But I do want to leave you with a couple of final thoughts. Sometimes we don't know if we should allow children to come to events. And I just want to say that for some events, it's okay to not want young children present. And for those events, we will put on the actual invitation that we respectfully request that all guests be over the age of 3. We do that for a couple of reasons. I mean, some things just are more solemn and they're not really meant for small children. Like at our holiday event, it wouldn't have the same feel if there was, little kids screaming and babies crying and children running around and things like that. So that's one of the events that's really about the only event that we do that we ask children not to attend. Most people understand. Sometimes we do have parents who are disappointed, especially if they've recently had a new baby and they want to come and see all their friends and show off their baby. But then we have to kind of gently remind them how difficult it can be for parents to be around young children. So usually once we explain it that way, they usually understand. And again, I feel like I've given you a lot of ideas, and I feel like a lot of times people get overwhelmed when they think about hosting something like this. So I'll just tell you, my biggest rule is to keep it simple. I know if any of my coworkers are on here today, they're probably laughing inside at me because I don't always keep things simple, but when I started out, I did. This has kind of evolved over the years of me finding more and more ideas and wanting to do more and more things, but just keep it simple. And I'll just say parents appreciate anything that you do for them. They don't care how elaborate it is. They don't care if it has a theme. They don't care how much money you spent. They just appreciate knowing that you cared enough about them to offer them an event that remembers and honors their baby. Because like I said earlier, a lot of people in their lives don't always continue to do that. So that's the most important reason to host one. And just keep that in mind if you find yourself feeling overwhelmed. And the last one might sound a little weird, have fun, but it is fun to plan these things. I mean, it's a sad reason, but it is enjoyable to plan them, especially when you know how much it's going to mean to the family. So that's all I have for you today. So thank you so much again for joining me today. I love talking about this. You can contact me anytime. There's my email addresses up there. If you want to know, this is just a very small snippet of what I enjoy about memory making. If you want to learn more, you are welcome to, I'm teaching a memory making workshop at the PLIDA conference in Denver in a couple of months. And you can also find more information on the SHARE website. So again, reach out to me anytime. I would love to hear from you. And please, if you have anything you want to share that you do for your families, or if you have any questions.
Rose, thank you so much. This has just been beautiful and wonderful. And we do have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
I wanted to
bring them on.
just, can you share any particularly memorable stories that came from families post event?
Oh gosh.
I call that glitter. You got any glitter for us?
Well, let's see. Oh, I could share so many stories. Okay, this is the first one that popped into my head. So about 5 or so years ago, I didn't show any pictures of this because I couldn't find any. I guess I didn't take any pictures that year, or if I did, I don't know where they're at. But we had a hummingbird was kind of the theme. So I wrote this little reflection about, different characteristics of hummingbirds and kind of related that to grief. And the ornament had a little hummingbird charm tied onto with ribbon. And a family showed up at our event who had never been to anything before. And they actually were coming to our support group meeting that night, but our December event is held instead of our December support group meeting. We have this event on that night, but we usually put a note on the door of the office letting people know that, they're welcome to join us at the Light of Hope, but there's no support group meeting that night. So this happened to this couple. They had just had a miscarriage. Like, I think she had just had her D&C like the day before. And they were really looking forward to the support group meeting. So they showed up at our event, and I knew it was their first time. And I knew that, they had met to go to the support group meeting, and we kind of got to know the family, and they've had other children now, and they still come to everything. But about 2 years later, I was talking to her at our walk, and she came up to me and showed me this bracelet that she had, and she had a hummingbird on it. And she said that like, she just really connected with that hummingbird. She had just had her loss the day before. She came to this event. We had the hummingbird, and that's like now her thing that she, like her little symbol for her baby that she lost is a hummingbird.
That's beautiful. I lead support groups, and I often hear that from families is we have to sit with the loss and let this icon, this memory making image, it shows up. Either it's a butterfly or mine was a pink camellia. And so now my pink camellia blooms on her birthday every year. And so finding different ways to, it's beautiful. Well, another question I had for you was about reaching out to, how do you engage with the medical community and get around HIPAA so that families know about your event?
Okay. Well, the main way that families find out about our event is about a month or two before it. I usually have an invitation printed up that we put out at our support group meetings.
Okay.
Also, we have the advantage of, we're the National Office of Share, so we have lots of people in our database, and I usually will email everybody who is in our database that's in the Missouri, Illinois, Metro Illinois area. We don't typically advertise them at hospitals and things. But again, we have a lot of local chapters in the St. Louis area. And so they will tell their families about our event. I don't know if I answered the question, but like I said, we typically don't go into the hospitals and advertise that, but somehow word of mouth, it gets around, I guess.
Yeah, it's we've in my community, I've been doing the Walk to Remember for many, many years, and but it's been an interesting and delicate dance to share. So thank you. Let's see, there's a lot coming in the chat. It sounds like a lot of folks are looking for an alternative to a balloon release. What are some other options, maybe that are safer and more environmentally friendly?
We would like to know that ourselves. We have a walk every year that we have around 2,000 people who come to, and I'm not involved in the planning of that other than kind of choosing a poem and a song and all of that, but a balloon release used to be a huge part of that. And at our walk, we read all the babies' names. There's usually about 600 of them. And in the past, whenever we would read the name, they would release the balloon. And we used to do it at a park in St. Louis County, and they made balloon releases illegal. So we moved to St. Charles County, where our office is actually at, and the park is real near our office, because they weren't illegal. And we did them. We did a balloon release one year, and we got raked over the coals by all the businesses down in St. Charles. So we have not done a balloon release since 2015. Yeah. So we've tried different things. One year we provided little bottles of bubbles so that people could blow bubbles when their baby's name was read. Didn't have quite the same impact as the balloons. One year we got pinwheels so that when their baby's name was read, they could hold their pinwheel up and hopefully the wind would blow it. But again, we haven't really found anything that has quite the impact of a balloon release. Unfortunately, we do a dove release at the end after we're finished reading all of the babies' names. We do a dove release. But every year we sit around and think, gosh, I wish we could think of something that we could do that would have the impact of a balloon release. And unfortunately, I
hear you. I love all your ideas. We've actually used several here in our community, and one that has been a big hit was we made flags. Like we either cut them in triangles or we did square, what I guess are sometimes called prayer flags. But we took scrapbook paper and a hole punch and a bunch of ribbon, and families made a flag with their baby's name on it, and we hung it around the gazebo, and so we could see everybody's flag, and then they were able to take it home with them. And
that's a good idea. I noticed a few people have said butterfly releases, and the problem with us, it depends on kind of when your walk is, because if it gets too cold, the butterflies might die. And our walk is typically the day of our walk last year was 40 degrees in the morning. So people who do things in the summertime, they do offer butterfly releases as an idea as well. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We've even painted rocks, it's so fun, all the different things, and you can just switch it up every couple of years. I would love to hear from some of the participants, either through the chat or if you'd like to turn on your camera and share with us some of the creative things that are going on in your communities. Yes. So that we would really love to learn about what y'all are doing so that we can spread the goodness.
Definitely. I'm going to take notes.
I just, this is Jennifer. I just put it in the chat, but we experimented with different homemade bubble recipes, and you can take a couple of dowels and you put tie string to the end of them, and then just use a little washer in the middle to weight it. And you can make those really huge, ginormous bubbles. And during the COVID, that's what we did. We created little kits. We had bubble bottles, and we put a little label on them from sharing, and provided them with the wands, the big wands to do. And the neat thing about the bubbles is that they pick up the sunlight, and you see the colors of the rainbow in the bubbles, and kids really like doing that. And since we couldn't all be together, we focused on trying to create it as more of a family event that they could go home and do this together. We gave them a map for a labyrinth, so that they could create a labyrinth in their backyard, or at a park where they're
That's a great
outdoors.
idea.
So yeah, we were as inventive as we could be, because we had to come up with something. We threw some Halloween candy in there, and I don't remember. We had other resources in the bags for counseling and different resources available for them in the community as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm also kind of curious about fathers and partners. So what kind of attendance do you see, or do you hear stories of glitter from partners, grandparents?
Well,
about these
thankfully, when we have, especially our holiday event, that's the one thing that we consistently do every year. We were doing grandparents events until COVID hit, and we haven't done one since. But when we have our December event, we have lots of dads who come, lots of grandparents who come. So I feel like when you host events like that, any kind of event, you're more likely to have dads and partners and family members participate, because it's less threatening than like sitting at a support group meeting or something like that. So we do have good success with partners and attending those types of things.
That's great. Yeah. Oh man, I had a good question for you. Does anybody else have, while I try to remember what my question.
Yeah, just in terms of dads, we've got a relationship with FEMR in Nashville, the Fetal Infant Mortality Review at the Public Health Department. They're very conscientious about dads, and they will provide us with, it's like a little, it's just like a little, like a coin-sized disc that acknowledges them as fathers, that they can just carry around in their pocket, stick their hand in their pocket and feel and touch. And that's one of the things we put in our goodie bags when we did that a couple of years ago. Public Health has been really great about supplying that for us.
I like that.
That's beautiful. Yeah, let me go back and see if I can see some more of these questions that are coming in. Let's see.
It won't let me turn my video back on, but I'm Rachel. I'm a bereavement coordinator. I'm a nurse at a hospital, and oh, there we go. Hello.
Oh, there you are. Hello.
I'm a nurse at a hospital in Illinois, and we host an event each year. And one of the things that has been really helpful for us the last couple of years is that we host it both in person and virtually. So that has been really great for all of those families who want to grieve in private, the families who maybe have medically fragile children, perhaps arriving twins or subsequent babies, and then grandparents. And then families who have moved away. So we do keep track of all the families who experience loss at our facilities, and we send invitations to them individually, and then we post on social media. So we get people coming from other states zooming in and watching the event from home while people are also there in person, which has been really helpful for us. We've had a lot of positive feedback about that.
Very nice, especially
That's
now
awesome.
when with COVID around, and some people still are kind of leery of being in groups like that.
In our
That's great.
community, we have a large university. And so with all the students, I think a lot of people are wary about how many bugs are floating around. So being able to listen in from home has been really great. And for those who come in person, we have a few different specialties who attend. So we have social work. spiritual care, and child life specialists who attend,
Mhm.
and they have their badges on. They're there to provide support to these
Oh,
families.
that's
It's
nice.
really nice.
That's
We even had
beautiful.
we even had
We-
some of the dogs from our pet therapy group come last year, which was wonderful. We hope to have dogs again this year to provide support, especially to, the littles who need to.
Yeah, we've done that before too, where we've partnered with Child Life to really be there as a part of the support system. And it has been helpful because then the hospital is represented and it starts to heal that relationship for continuity. So there was a question about Rose, maybe your go-to resource for poems or songs or memory making items to use at a ceremony.
Poems is tough because I feel like so many of them out there we've used. Pinterest again, there's really a plethora of baby loss things on Pinterest. There's been a few times where there's been a song that we liked, and rather than having someone sing it, we kind of read it like a poem.
Mm-hmm.
For songs, we often get on YouTube and we'll just type in songs appropriate for child loss. The other thing that we have found is a lot of love songs. It sounds silly, but really resonate. The lyrics can really resonate with someone who's lost a child. So we've found several different songs like that. It's kind of hard sometimes to find unique things, and we do so many things all the time that we kind of feel like we need something new. So YouTube, you can even Google, there's lots of songs that people have recorded that are for someone who's lost a baby. The song that we're using this year at our walk was actually recorded by somebody on, I can't remember the show now, but it was one of those singing shows. And again, I find lots of things on Pinterest. I really do. I don't know if you're on Pinterest, whoever asked that question, but if you're not, you might want to get on there because you can just go up in the search bar and type poems about baby loss.
So
And
I have a question kind of in that same vein of why is it so important that we offer these tangible items to these families at a time of their loss? What are they saying and what are they gaining and how are they letting you know that
You mean as far as
collecting these items?
okay, you mean as far as like the ornaments and things like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
What's the
I just had a conversation.
the ritual behind?
Yeah. I just feel like, again, especially with the holiday one, the holidays are a really tough time for someone who's lost a baby, even if they've had other children, even if it's 10 years later. The holidays seem to bring out all of that grief. And again, like I said in my presentation, a lot of times other people have moved on. Like they're not thinking that you're still sad about your baby that died 10 years ago or 12 years ago or 8 years ago or whatever. And so families do tell us that the reason they like the thing that we do at the holidays is because it kind of puts them in a frame of mind to be ready for the holidays because they've had this event where they can focus on their baby. Mm-hmm. People aren't looking at them like they're weird because they're still sad about their baby that died, and they can truly just center themselves on their baby that died. And as far as the things that they take home, I just was having a conversation with one of my coworkers the other day. She's someone kind of like me. She had several miscarriages, and now hers were not as many years ago as mine were. She had Share and she had the support group and things like that, but she doesn't usually come to our holiday event. But I always try to give all of my coworkers one of the ornaments from that night, even if they don't come. And just the other day we were talking about, because I just ordered the ornaments for this year coming up, and I was talking about them to her, and she's like, I keep them all in a little bag and I still get them out every year. And they're just, I think it's always important for families to have things that are tangible in honor of their baby, because it just, I'm not finding my big girl words right now.
No, that's okay. No, it was
It's
kind
just
of, you know,
like, I don't have anything tangible from the losses that I had, and I know how much it would have meant to me to have those things.
right.
And I say that when people come year after year after year after year, clearly they're getting something beneficial from it, or they wouldn't keep coming.
Well,
And some of our families
what you're
even have, I'm sorry, go ahead.
what you're describing is the fact that it's a safe space for them to be a parent. and I love all my little items that I've gathered across the years, because I can hide them in plain sight.
Yes.
And so I know that even though no one knows that that's what's on the tree, I remember year 8 because that's my ornament from year 8. And so, yeah, thank you. I guess one thing that in our last few minutes I wanted to kind of ask you about was, have the moms and families that you've worked with taught? So we did a bereaved Mother's Day tea one year, and it was a beautiful day. But in doing support groups over the years, I have started to see a big shift between women who want to have their own day as a bereaved mother, and some mothers who are like, no, I want the day to be the bereaved mother. So have you had any experiences with that, and or have any insight for us to maybe help these families through the difference?
I have. Someone comes to mind who one year she went on a rant on her Facebook page. She lost twins, and they were her first children, and she did not have any. She still has never had any children after that. And several years ago, she went on this rant on her Facebook page that she doesn't like people telling her Happy Mother's Day, that she doesn't really relate to being a mother because she doesn't have a child on earth to parent. And so I guess I would say what I say about all kinds of things with grief is just to meet people where they're at. Some people really want that recognition on Mother's Day. Like, I'm a mother, even if my child is not here, I want to be recognized as a mother. Other people, some people will get irritated that when they have a baby again, and people say, oh, this is your first Mother's Day. And they're like, no, it's not. Last year was my first Mother's Day, just because, so everybody is so different. So I'm kind of glad that we now have the bereaved Mother's Day, because there's kind of something for everyone. If you would rather be honored on bereaved Mother's Day, if you'd rather be honored on Mother's Day, it's hard to know though what people want. But if they tell you what they want, then I guess just kind of meet them where they're at. And, in the past, we have actually done little things with our support group around Mother's Day. It can be something simple like, providing flower seeds and pots, and they can paint pots and plant the flower seeds in them. One thing that I do every year in the spring, and I try to do it around Mother's Day, sometimes it doesn't happen until after, but I try to do it before, is I host an event where moms can come and make bracelets. I make jewelry as a hobby, so I will bring beads and just different things. And usually I have something where they can kind of follow along. We all kind of make the same thing, but I try to give them a way to personalize it. So again, some people don't want to be acknowledged as a mother, but I feel like in my years at Share, I have encountered more people who do want to be acknowledged as a mother than don't. I don't know if I answered your question.
You did.
Wordy sometimes.
You did. No, this is, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your expertise and your stories, and holding space for everyone. So just thank you very much. If anyone has further questions or needs access to resources, you're welcome to reach out to PLIDA as well as Rose. I think she gave her email address and contact information earlier. And we just want to thank everyone for being with us today. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you so much for coming. And if you do want to share something that you didn't get a chance to share, or a question you want to ask, again, reach out to me anytime. I love hearing things that people do, and I would love to hear from you.
Great.
So
thank you,
all for
everybody.
coming.
Have a good
Thank you
evening.
so much. Thanks, Catherine, for helping.
No problem. It was a pleasure. Bye, Rose.
Bye.